to chat to him. Hello, sir.
Hi, Natasha. How are you?
I am blessed and highly favored. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm quite excited to chat to you about this book. I was actually saying to someone, I mean, if I was still in corporate, I would literally read this book every single day that I was stepping into the office, because I've just obviously made the big decision of leaving corporate and jumping in to serve. So I'm obsessed, and I'm excited to chat about this book.
Great, me too. I wrote it, so I'm extremely excited.
Yes. Now, getting straight into it, Herman, let's talk about, the inspiration and maybe even the motivation behind the book Lead with Intent. What was it that made you go, I need to write this now?
Natasha, what happened is we started working with a major financial institution in 2007. And the specific division were really struggling with staff engagement and leadership, and they contracted us. And we started working with them, and today they are number one for staff engagement and leadership in their organization, this division. They scored 97% for engagement and 93% for business partner satisfaction. So other divisions in this financial institution actually approached us and said, hey, how did you do this? So we actually admitted at first that we don't know. We just followed our gut.
Yeah.
So we sat down with the executive managers and senior management of this division, and we reverse engineered everything we did. And we actually came up with a model and these 9 principles and practices in the book. And I must say, all our clients have been a major inspiration and motivation for us to write this book, because we found these leaders in the corporate environment who make a massive difference with these principles of intention and servanthood. So we just felt compelled to write the book and to get it out there.
And I must say, what I love about it is, in as much as, it speaks to management and people in, I suppose, supervisory positions within the corporate world, you can take away these principles and concepts into your personal growth and into your personal life.
Absolutely. And that's where we start as well with leaders. Dee Hock, who is the founder of Visa, he did a massive research study in the top 500 companies in the world, the Fortune 500. And what he found is the best leaders in the world spend 50% or more of their time on personal leadership. Because if you lead yourself well, others will follow you.
Yeah.
If you don't lead yourself well, leadership becomes very difficult, because what people see is what people do. It's as simple as that. So that's why we have work in the corporate environment, because there's a lot of leaders out there who try and lead others, but they can't lead themselves well. It starts with personal leadership. So I'm so glad you brought that up.
Right. And so, Herman, let's talk about the core, and then the leadership principles that you discuss in the book, and the practices that lead to an engaged workforce. What else can readers expect in this book?
So I think besides the 9 principles and practices, we also explain how this plays out in the corporate culture and how it leads to engagement. Yeah. But I mean, you just left the corporate environment, Natasha. If you listen to the buzzwords in the corporate environment now, it's how to future-proof, how to get your people future-ready, how to get people future fluent. Those are all the buzzwords. Yeah, everybody is focused on that in the new world of work. So I think we took that into consideration when we wrote the book. So I think what people will take away after reading this book is, how do I future-proof my leadership? How do I make sure I'm relevant for the future, and especially for new generations coming into the work environment? So I think it's going to be a great takeaway. But I think overall, just the leadership principles, even if you're a church pastor, community leader, very, very helpful.
Sure. And then let's touch on leading with intent. I think, to break it down, how do we describe leading with intent, and what is the significance of leading with intent?
Well, I think when we chose the title of the book, what we realized is leadership is intentional. It does not happen by accident. Paul writes in Romans 12, verse 8, that if you lead and you've got the gift and the opportunity of leadership, you should lead with intent. And with the word he uses is diligence, And I think that is what the book is about, is how do I diligently with great intention, lead my people. In the business environment, Natasha, you've got three constituencies which you need to take into consideration. Firstly, the shareholders of your business, they own you. Secondly, the employees, they do the hard work. And then you've got
Yeah.
customers you need to serve, you know. And I think too many times the shareholders win. I've had many conversations with CEOs who cry long tears
Yeah.
because they've neglected people and customers to keep shareholders happy. So
Yeah.
if you lead with intent, you find a way of keeping all those constituencies happy. And
Yeah.
also, I think in the long term, it's the best way to build a sustainable business is with these principles of intention. And once we did the research and we identified the themes after all the conversations we had and interviews we had, we actually realized that Jesus practiced these principles as a leader, as well as Paul, if you read his letters. So, I think there's so much wisdom behind these principles that's so helpful for many leaders.
Sure. And touching on, leadership styles, Herman, now you also touch on servant leadership. And it states in your book, in all the organizations where we have consulted, trained, and coached, leaders who apply the principles and practices of servant leadership are the role models and mentors. Now, how do we describe servant leadership?
Um, it's funny, Natasha. We worked with these leaders, and then we tell them, "Look, you're a servant leader," and they say, "No, I'm not even a person of faith." And then we tell them, "No, but look at the academic research of what servant leadership is," and we
Yeah.
show them the principles, and then these people admit, "Okay, then I am a servant leadership." So I think most leadership theories out there, are fixated on performance and growth at the expense of people.
Yeah.
And what servant leadership does, it's hard on results, but it is soft on people.
Mm,
So servant leadership always begins with this natural feeling that I want to serve people. So I use my leadership not for my own career and my own success, but I actually use my leadership for the betterment of my people and the people I want to deliver the results I need for my shareholders. I
yeah.
use my servant leadership to better their lives. So it's all about the intention again. It's really about the people and helping them. We don't only treat our people as human resources to make profit, but we see them as holistic human beings and we treat them as such. So it's hard on results, soft on people. And once again, if you look at the research, the top performing companies, those are the companies. They really, really take servant leadership to heart.
And it's interesting, Herman, because I think this also has a benefit to even the culture within the workspace, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And Natasha, yeah, I want to bring you back to a biblical principle. If you look at these principles and you read through them, you might think, are they not big? But these principles are small. But
Yeah.
I want to remind people about the disproportionate impact of small things. If you look at Jesus, he talks about yeast, he talks about salt, he talks about light. These are all small things, but they make a massive impact. So, these leadership principles, if you bring them into the culture of your organization, you will see the difference, you will taste the difference, and you will feel the difference.
Yeah. And then happy workplace, happy shareholders, happy people, happy customers or service providers, if you will.
So, Natasha, that's a great equation. So if
Yeah.
you build this great place to work, people hang around. If people hang around, they build better relationships with customers.
Yes.
If you build better relationships with customers, you actually understand their needs and you serve them better, which means your customers hang around, which leads
Yes.
to more profitability. It's
And there we go.
basic business sense.
And a good balance over everything, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you for that. And Herman, the book further describes, servant leadership as a blend of transformational, authentic, and spiritual leadership. Can we just touch on those three important notes and how they all sort of blend in together?
Hmm. So, I mean, the classic leadership theory is between transformational and transactional. I think if you lead with intent, you want to transform people's life rather than just pay them for what they do.
Mm.
The opposite of authentic is inauthentic. I think
Yeah.
leading with intent, you have to lead with who you are. You were created in the image of God. There's a piece in you that of God in you that only you can bring to the fore. You have to be who you are. You have to be authentic. You can't fake it, especially with the new generation. They smell a fake leader a mile away. So
Yeah.
that's not going to stand you in good stead. And then lastly, spiritual leadership, bringing meaning to people's lives,
Mm.
bringing purpose to people's lives. We spend so much time at work. How do we actually help people to
Mm.
find meaning and purpose at work? So that is the servant leader. I transform people's lives. I do that by just being who I am,
Yeah.
being happy with how God has created me and using that. And then lastly, it's about bringing meaning and purpose. And that's the blend of servant leadership between transformational, authentic, and spiritual leadership.
And Herman, I know this is not really a part of the question, but I'm just thinking about it now, and having read the book, being oneself also requires one to be vulnerable. And you
Yes.
also touch on this in your book.
Absolutely. I think the reason we need to be vulnerable is it shows people that we are normal human beings,
Mm.
Um, and here I want to talk to maybe church leaders as well. I think if I look at church services nowadays, they are overproduced. You
Mm.
know, they are so perfect, church services nowadays, that people can't relate with what's happening on stage.
Mhm.
Everything is overproduced. It's lightning, it's cameras, it's so
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
And I think that's inauthentic. And I think we don't show our vulnerability as church leaders and especially corporate leaders. We want to keep up this facade. But once I show vulnerability, people see that I'm a normal human being and they start trusting me. But to be vulnerable, it takes some humility. Uh, and
Absolutely.
and I think, if our ego gets in the way, we can't be vulnerable.
No, no. So it's distinguishing that fine line, I suppose, between humility and wow, I love this. I love this. Like I said, it's not part of the questions, but I thought about this, and obviously, having read the book, and I know you touch a part of it in your book. Herman, how can we incorporate leading with intent in our personal lives and overall personal development?
Mm. The feedback we get from the book, Natasha, it's very simple but profound. And I think, if you can't explain something in a simple way, you don't understand it yourself. I think in
Mm.
our business, we really try and live these principles because they improve your life.
Yeah.
And I think it's a book, and these principles will really help you to lead your life in a better way. And I think if you get that right in your personal life, God will open doors for you in terms of
Mhm.
leadership and serving others through your leadership. So it's a wonderful journey of personal development and growth as you work through the book. At the end of the book, we also have a little assessment for people to do to assess themselves in terms of these principles and practices.
Amazing. Amazing. And who then should purchase this book? And I love this question because, like I say, when I initially started reading the book, I thought, oh, goodness, corporate people that are in the workspace. And then as you read on, you realize, no, this is pretty much for anyone and everyone that is capable of being vulnerable and, introspection and going, I want to lead with intent.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely corporate leaders. I think if you want to build a sustainable organization, this is the way to go. I think if you're interested in personal leadership, personal growth, this is the book for you. And then lastly, I really want to ask church pastors to buy this book and read this book. I've already worked with two denominations with a lot of church pastors. The book is having a huge impact in their churches. So
Sure.
I think the reason I want pastors to read this book is I'm worried about the state of leadership in the church. And even though
Mm.
we must be the custodians of servant leadership, somehow I think a lot of churches just get it wrong. I was in my church 2 weeks ago, and we were presenting new members. And I looked
Yeah.
at all these new members. None of them were younger than 50 years old. because
Sure.
they all reflect the age of the senior pastor. So we have all these churches with all these old senior pastors, and they are not developing young new leaders in their churches. So this is
Mm,
a guide for pastors to help them to raise the next generation of leaders. You know, the younger generation is missing in the church because I think they struggle to relate. And
yeah.
we need a new generation of church leaders who will take over the churches or plant new churches so that we can reach the new generation.
Absolutely. And Herman, I mean, you're a man of, I mean, you're well read, and I want to ask this question: in writing this book, what would you say you learned about yourself?
Um, Look, I'm not a detailed person.
Yeah.
I'm a big picture person. So for me to write a book, it was a real struggle. But here's what I've learned is that, you know, God asks my availability, not my capability. I don't think I'm a
Wow.
great writer, you know, and I went through the editing process, 9 different edits with the editor of this book. Now, for somebody who's not good with detail, you know, I nearly had a heart attack. It was crazy working
Yeah.
through. Luckily, I have wonderful colleagues who help me with that, you know, but I think at the end of the day, I've really learned that if you are available and you
Mhm.
present what you want to do to God, you know, by the grace of God, God will use you. And that's what I want to encourage people with. Just make yourself available for the work of God, for the
Mm.
kingdom of God, whether you're in the corporate, in the church, nonprofit. I mean, the teachers every day, you know, it's wonderful what they do out there. Just make yourself available. And that's what I've learned, you know, it's just I want to make myself available to God for Him to use me in whichever way will benefit the
Yeah.
kingdom of God.
Amazing. Amazing. And Herman, where can our listeners and even the audience get this book? How do they get their hands on this book?
Well, firstly, it's on Amazon. So if you want to, if you read on Kindle, you'll find it there. Then publisher.co.za if you want to purchase a soft copy. And then Kum Books will also be stocking the book starting from June. We're still in negotiations with other bookstores in South Africa,
Yeah.
but we're happy to say that Kum Books will stock the book as well. And then if people want to buy in bulk, they can just email me at my email address, which is herman@ttli.co.za. TTLI, that's Tango Tango Lima India.co.za. You know, we do bulk orders with our publishers, you know, for corporate and for church groups as well. And then obviously you get a better price for it as well.
Fantastic. I must just say before I let you go, I was so impressed, and I reached out to my previous MD and I said, you need to get your hands on this book. So I would encourage anyone that's listening right now, get your hands on the book. It's titled Lead with Intent, and it is, of course, written by Hermann du Plessis. Thank you so
Thank you,
much, Hermann.
Natasha. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you again for your insight and your knowledge and your wisdom. I for one, I like I say, I'm very I'm into this book. I can't put it down. I was doing laundry yesterday and I literally was reading as I walked to the laundry room because I just you want to learn more and more. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm happy to hear that. We want the book to be user friendly.
Well, exactly. Most importantly, have a blessed one, Herman, and thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you,
All right.
Natasha. Take
Well,
care. Bye bye.